Well, Nebraska made some moves at some positions of need via the transfer portal over the weekend. And continuing on my player breakdown series, I'm going to start today with Marquez Watson Trent out of Georgia Southern. I'm also going to give a comparison here to somebody that the fans are familiar with and really kind of break those down in detail and kind of show you where they differ, where they are the same, and where they kind of remind me of each other. And I'm going to have some PFF grades for you towards the end of the video as well. So if you like this style of content, please drop a like on the video. Really helps me out. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about the video and the portal moves so far. And just for what it's worth, Jalen Lloyd committing to Oklahoma State earlier today. So with that being said, I'm just going to dive right into Marquez Watson Trent. And when talking about just his overall size, again, in the comparison to Luke Reimer, and again, it's not a exact comparison, but there are similarities in their play style that I think you'll see that'll transpire and really kind of remind you a lot of what he gave on the defensive side of the ball. Now, with Marquez Watson Trent, a little bit shorter. He's 5'11", 225, very much kind of the similar size in their stockiness, right? 1 year of eligibility remaining, but, he is just a guy who played a ton of snaps, and also just kind of excelled in every, sure tackler in those regards and just a high amount of tackles overall, but just breaking down his game in general. Now, I'm going to start with the play style between the two. Both, a little bit undersized, yet very aggressive in their play. Both play the inside linebacker. Marquez Watson Trent, has a lot of experience at a 4.25, and they both play fast. Sometimes a little too fast, especially with Marquez, but excellent when playing downhill. Scrappy players, very high motor, and that was one of the hallmarks of Luke Reimer, is just a play finisher. And that's something you're also going to see a lot from Marquez Watson Trent. That's one of the things that makes him very good in terms of just his overall play, despite some of his, lack of ability in some areas. Now, they both make up for their lack of height, and overall stature with kind of their strengths. But one of the things that really kind of, they struggle with occasionally is getting off of blocks from the bigger sized O linemen, especially that, Marquez Watson Trent is going to be seeing in the Big Ten a lot different level of physicality in terms of that. So we'll see how that translates as well, but that's something he's going to have to work on. Now, one of the things that really, I always liked about Reimer and his ability, not only just in his tackling, but his range, right? He is a guy who could come down and, had a nose for the ball, can diagnose plays, read and react, and get in the gap, fill the gap quickly, stop runs in the gap, but also can play sideline to sideline, right? And Marquez Watson Trent, is more of an athleticism type of, in speed type of guy, where Reimer was more so, play recognition, motor and instincts, and a little bit of that speed, where Marquez Watson Trent's a little twitchier, more athletic, explosiveness on his first step, but a little bit less speed than Reimer. But both are able to get out laterally and make those plays sideline to sideline, as well as be able to kind of tackle in a phone booth in those gaps and fill those gaps with a lot of, sound, sure tackling, and just kind of getting into their tackling ability. And again, I'll go over their PFF grades with this stuff in just a little bit, but they both have a nose for the football, right? Where sometimes they do struggle a little bit with play recognition. Again, a lot of that is made up for with motor and being able to come back and make the play. Sometimes they do, like I said, play a little too fast and will get out of position, but they're at their best, both of them, when they're playing downhill and aggressive. And as we saw in the bowl game, John Butler is going to play that downhill aggressive style of defense. Now, what makes them so good, in their ability to tackle downhills, they're just very good at keeping their hips square. It's just disciplined fundamentals. And laterally, they're rangy, especially with, running backs coming out of the backfield and being able to make tackles on those guys. So they both tackle really well in space, but like I said, it's a fundamental and discipline thing, very much in terms of just their overall tackling fundamentals, being able to really kind of keep their hips square and not really kind of, giving a little too much on the bites and the fakes and stuff like that. So just that ranginess, it comes from a different level of, their athleticism versus speed, or their play recognition versus motor. But both of them are high motor guys that do have the ability to range out there and make plays, and they both finish plays. They both play to the whistle. So it's not one of those things where you're going to have a lack of effort out there where he gives up on a play. He's going to range out there and try to make every play he can when he needs to. Now, getting into a little bit of their coverage ability. Now, neither one of them have, really good coverage ability in terms of, being able to stick one-on-one in man coverage. That's really the weakness of both of them, which, as a middle linebacker, it's not going to be your best trait usually. Where Reimer did well is kind of, was able to get some depth on his drops, was able to cover guys out of the backfield. And that's the same with Marquez Watson-Trent, where he's probably going to be more so one of those guys who's, covering the underneath zones, not really the over-the-top zones or the middle of the field zones. A lot more of the time he's going to be, taking those running backs out of the backfield, because he can get out, on those plays, and has shown the ability to get out and play downhill on those routes behind the line of scrimmage, or act the line of scrimmage, you'll be able to come downhill and make tackles on the running backs. So that ability to close distance and makes tackles downhill means that they're going to be playing better when the stuff, or Marquez Watson-Trent's going to be playing better when the play is in front of him as opposed to behind him. Again, it's a fluidity thing. It's a lack of, certain physical characteristics and stuff like that, and just not his overall strength. Like I said, can do okay in zone coverage, but definitely not in man coverage. Just needs more refinement in their coverage ability, but probably going to be utilized to their strength. So again, disciplined football IQ can help them in zone coverage, but again, I just think he's going to be more suited for that underneath downhill style, getting those tight ends in the flats, those running backs out of the backfield, that style of thing. Now, going over to their pass rush, and here's where I'll pull up kind of their PFF grades, and we'll start comparing some of these things right here. So, and I'm going to try to make these big enough to where you can see them, but I do have both of their PFF grades here on the screen, and I'm going to kind of just go down here. And one of the things to note is, you see at the bottom on both of these guys, you see kind of their stats in their junior season. So you got Reimer on the left, and you got Watson-Trent on the right. And, looking at the junior stats, Reimer was very much improved in his senior season, but we are going to compare senior season to 2024 for Marquez Watson-Trent. So looking overall at their numbers for the season, right? You see right here, you have a 68.6 in terms of just overall defense for Reimer, 79.6 for Watson-Trent. Run defense 72.2 versus 88. You got a big time strength of Watson-Trent there. Tackling 69.8 to 70.5. Again, both pretty sure tacklers, really good tacklers in their fundamentals, and being able to just kind of wrap up and make a solid tackle without getting a penalty or without trying to arm tackle. And then the coverage ability. Now you see the ability in terms of the coverage grade overall for Marquez Watson-Trent is a little bit higher, well, a lot higher, but the factor in that is the amount of snaps that he was out in coverage. You see overall it's very balanced. Both guys are very balanced in their run defense to coverage, but again, just the spot that they utilized him in was less of that over the top style of coverage, and that, more where you need that depth in your drop, and just really kind of more to that, curl flat to that underneath kind of zone coverage. So playing to his strengths is going to be a big advantage there. Now that's one of the biggest things I did want to point out is the balance in snaps. And that kind of shows you kind of the similar, how their similar play styles are. Again, 163 here, 173, 349 to 389. Of course, 2024, he took 809 snaps versus 409 for Reimer. Reimer's closest season right there was 745 in 2021. Now, moving a little bit over, let me go ahead and move over to this stuff over here. You'll see on the bottom of your screen. And when talking about their pressure, again, you're going to see that Reimer's pass rushing ability is much higher, 80.6 versus 49.7. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have the ability to rush the passer. I think there's schematics that are going to benefit him in John Butler's scheme that can put him better in terms of getting to the quarterback. But again, you also look at the number of snaps here in terms of overall pass rush. Now 409 total snaps for Reimer and 73 in pass rush. And then over here in 2024, 809 snaps and 2 less pass rush snaps for him than Reimer. So a big disparity there in terms of those snaps, in terms of percentages of overall snaps that they played. And you see the numbers here where you have Reimer 20 with the pressures, 6 sacks, 4 hits, 10 hurries, 29 tackles, 11 assists, and 6 miss. And then you come over here and you see 11 totals, 1 sack, 2 hits, 8 hurries. And you look at the missed tackle percentage, 12.3 for Marquez Watson-Trent and 13% for Reimer. And then you also have 8.8% the year prior for Watson-Trent. So moving on over to their coverage a little bit here, you see that their overall target, their grade when they were targeted reception percentage, you have an 87.9% reception percentage, and that's 29 for 33 when targeted for Marquez Watson-Trent, and then 13 for 17 at a 76.5 reception percentage for Reimer. And one of the things there, see the yards per reception, 6.9, 9.6. So again, that 9.6 is going to be a little bit more of that over the top range, kind of behind in that deep drop zone. Now moving over a little bit here, let's see, to the PBUs. So you got 8 total for Reimer's career, 4 total for Watson-Trent's career here. And then you kind of see the alignments here where a lot of times these guys are just in the box. 328 in the box, 647 in the box. You see a lot more of the, slot alignment here for Watson-Trent. And then a little bit more kind of, you have a couple of spots at corner here for Reimer and really none of that outside of 3 in this year for Marquez Watson-Trent. But again, neither one of those guys are going to be out there enough, or he's not going to be out there enough in that position to matter. So you kind of see the similarities here from their games. And one of the biggest things, again, as you can see here with, penalties and stuff like that, very low numbers, but just overall, the comparisons are 100% there in terms of just watching their overall play on the field. And you kind of see some of the numbers line up here where it's a strength in the run defense, strength in tackling. One is a little bit better in pass rushing. One is a little bit better in coverage. But overall, it's the high motor, it's the instincts, it's the IQ. And while some of them, a couple times they'll play a little too fast and kind of be out of position, that's also one of the things that comes with the fact that they are high motor players that rely so much on just their ability to get out there and try to close the distance as quickly as possible for what they lack in their terms of overall high and top end speed and fluidity. And I will say Marquez Watson-Trent's a little bit more fluid than Reimer is, a little bit more explosive, but Reimer was just such a high effort, a little bit faster, but overall just a very exciting guy. And one of those, again, that's kind of under the radar. Luke Reimer came in as a Nebraska kid, very underrated recruit. I don't think he was rated by 24/7's composite when he came in. You have Watson-Trent, who was kind of a lower end 3-star in terms of the 24/7 overall grade. So, again, it's one of those things where comparisons are never a exact thing, but just kind of getting an idea of what we have by a comparison to a player we've seen before can give you an idea of what kind of role he might have on the field. And again, a little bit different in the defenses that they ran, but overall, just that effort, that motor that made Luke Reimer such a fan favorite at Nebraska is also going to be something that Watson-Trent brings to the table. And hopefully we'll make him a fan favorite as well. Now, that would be the end of the video here. If you made it this far, please drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. And I'll be continuing this series with breaking down more players as we get them in the portal, including the DB. That is coming soon. My live stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central. So y'all stay tuned, tune in for that. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.